It's party time. Party. Why? Because I gotta. That's right, episode 25 of Screen Preach, our second official special. And yes, it is the Jim Carrey comedy special. Now, yes, I will be talking about Jim Carrey for the most part, but I'm going to touch on comedy as a whole a little bit. Like I said last week, it's going to be a lot of quoting and just kind of, having fun with it. Even got the shirt. Forgot about the shirt. Forgot I had the shirt. Swear to God. Didn't know I had a shirt. I mean, I did know, but I forgot. And, part of me, thinks that that's why this was one of the options at one point. I was like, oh, look, I got a Jim Carrey shirt. And I'm watching the movies. I think I was watching the movies at the same time that I got the shirt. And I was like, that could be a special, So that's where we're at. And it definitely fits like a glove, The little tight. Sorry, donut. Sorry, Jonathan. What are you doing? Come here. Hi. Yeah. So officially, second special. I will. Let's just let's have fun with this one. I'm not gonna think about last week. It was funny last week too. I rewatched the episode. Vibes totally. One half of the episode, the second half of the episode, two different vibes. Like I even said in the first half, my computer will probably shit the bed on me at some point, and then lo and behold, later in the episode, it shits the bed on me, and I lose audio for the episode. Anyway, that's not what we're gonna move on here. This is gonna be good. We're not gonna have that problem this week. That's not gonna happen this week, right? Yeah. So episode 25. Episode 50 will be the big Marvel special. Obviously, I it's coming. I told you it would be coming. And that, I realized too, I already have that episode ready to go too. Because I did a whole project on the Marvel Cinematic Universe in college. I could just pull right from that to do the episode. I don't have to do a bunch of prepping for that. It's ready to go. I'll get to that at episode 50. But here we are, episode 25. And sorry, Donut, I keep accidentally hitting you. Maybe the shirt's a little too tight because it ain't comfortable right now, Okay. Let's start with the obvious and talk about the news of the week. There was some interesting stuff, honestly, if I'm just being honest. It's usually a lot less. Lately anyway, we get a lot less news in the week because, the film industry is kind of still at a halt. They did start opening theaters again, so 70% of theaters opened. We're seeing what kind of numbers movies are going to bring in a little bit. Tenet brought in, I think it crossed 100 million worldwide. And I know that sounds like a lot of money. It's not. It's a lot less than at this point, Tenet would probably be crossing 250, 300 million worldwide, I would think. Maybe even more than that. Who knows? But at least they are probably at least breaking even. That's good. That's a good sign. Definitely breaking even. But the profits are going to be lower. They're just going to be lower. But it's fine. I mean, here's the thing. If Tenet's proving that it can still be, people are still going to the movies. I mean, people want to go to the movies, because thank God too. That experience, we can't lose it, and I'm glad people I'm glad people want to go to the movies. But now we see that we can do this too. You gotta fill just half capacity on the theaters. Just do it, man. Stop with these closed theaters bullshit. Just do half capacity and deal with it. Deal with your revenue stream being lower and and just it's better than nothing, get people in there. And maybe I'm just saying this because I want to fucking start going to the movies again, for crying out loud. I should have stayed a week longer visiting home, because then I could have went and saw Tenet with my brother. Damn. But yeah, well, I'm sure I'll get to it. Meanwhile, started the episode a little later today, obviously because of football. It is fucking back, and for me, the 1 o'clock games are at 10 o'clock in the morning, which is actually cool. You can get morning football. That's awesome. I think that's cool, and the games are not too late. Which I always like when the Giants. When the Giants played earlier, I would prefer it to later, because my nights I like to spend chilling and watching a movie. Not getting. I love football. It's the best fucking sport. I love it to death, and I always love it, always watch it. But I don't want to spend my nights. I like to watch movies at night, so it's great being in California that everything's earlier. And morning football is cool, but I forgot how early. Like, they're on right now, and I gotta do the episode. I might start doing some Saturday night recordings, which would be cool. I won't be drinking this. I'll be drinking something else, and during the episode. I might do some night recording. That would be cool. Saturday night, and then I'll edit it on Sunday, and it'll still come out on Monday. But yeah, let's get to the news first, and then we will get to Jim Carrey and his classics, his run of great comedies. But first, just need the app to not crash, and we're good. So, right off the bat here, there was, and I brought this up in the past too, so this is interesting. I've talked about how the Mandalorian's technology is revolutionary right now. What the Mandalorian, I mean, they're also the only show that has been able to stay consistently in production during the pandemic because of this technology and the way that you can use it to film. They didn't have to halt production because of this technology, which is that's why I think we all were like wondering how they were able to still get on time with season 2 coming out October 30th. Season 2 comes out. They filmed right through, and it's because of this the way that this stagecraft technology allows for probably even easier ways to have guidelines and protocols for the pandemic, because it is all interior sets like that they use, and it's insane. So, and I said that other movies will adapt, take this on, and I'm it's the Disney branch here. It doesn't surprise me to hear that Thor: Love and Thunder is going to use stagecraft technology to film at least some of the movie, and it probably doesn't hurt that Taika Waititi, the director, was one of the directors of The Mandalorian, and so he's used the technology. He knows what he has to do to use it for Thor, and it's great. It's going to really be just a fantastic, tool for cinema right now, is to have stagecraft technology. And speaking of Thor: Love and Thunder, Chris Hemsworth teased that Thor is not done, not even close. That's very consistent with the comics. Think about it. Thor's a god. He's 1,500 years old, which is young for a god. He's got, in the comics, he's always sticking around. It doesn't surprise me if Thor is around in this next big arc of the MCU, this next big storyline, whatever they're doing, whatever their big plan is. Thor will still be around, it makes sense, and that's awesome. Chris Hemsworth was very, very cool about the way he answered the question too. He was like, "Not by a long shot here. I'm young, man. I'm 1,500 years old." So that is awesome to tease that. Which means if he's teasing that like that, then he, you know, that means that he doesn't die. We know that much, I guess, that he doesn't die at the end of Thor: Love and Thunder. So yeah, he's probably sticking around. What kind of role Thor takes will change. I think that's only natural. It's only good writing. He won't be like a forefront Avenger. Same thing with the Hulk, who, Bruce Banner's around, but he won't be this forefront hero anymore. These guys have been through it. They're veterans. They're veteran Avengers who've been through war and war and war. The new generations that come in, they'll probably take on mentor roles. Hulk should pop up in She-Hulk, right? Because she'll be the next generation of Hulk, right? And then we have Jane Foster is going to become the new Thor. So, we see like more mentor roles for our old Avengers that are still around. And then, yes, at some point the characters will die as well. Meanwhile, on the other end of the spectrum there, Robert Downey Jr. definitely confirmed he's done. Tony Stark is dead. Rest in peace, all that, But speaking of the pandemic, though, we have delays still. They pushed Wonder Woman in 1984 again, so now it's coming out Christmas time. I heard a rumor that the MCU might want to shift again too, just to be safe and start clean in 2021. I'm actually all for it. It doesn't hurt. I think I've said before that for Marvel, the break does not hurt. It only helps. They have to rewrite a little, obviously. Black Panther, that whole, that arc there needs to be gracefully done. I heard a rumor they're just going to cancel Black Panther 2 and then, I guess they would, that's their way of honoring Chadwick too, is just not continuing with the story of the Black Panther and maybe shifting the story to Wakanda and the characters of Wakanda itself, explaining some way. I'm trying to think about how they would do it. Some way of T'Challa, he's gone, he passed away somehow. It's very tough. That's going to be very tough for them. I still think Shuri will take on the mantle. We'll see what happens there. I'm still wrapping my head around all that fucking shit, man. I just can't believe it. Yeah. Before I continue with the news, I just want to talk about what I'm watching real quick. Not so much what I'm watching, but what I will be watching, because things are coming out. Archer, Season 11, officially comes back. Unless they pushed it again, I actually have to check that. He finally comes out of his coma, The last 3 seasons he's been in a coma, and we've been seeing, his dreams, I want to get back, and that's cool and everything, but I want to get back to the main storyline, the regular secret agent stuff and everything. That's when the show's best, obviously. And then Ratched, I mentioned Ratched. Sarah Paulson's playing Nurse Ratched from Cuckoo's Nest in a Netflix series. That comes out next Friday, I think. I'll be checking that out. Meanwhile, I've just been watching some Tarantino films each night. Doing Tarantino. I will definitely be doing a special on him. I'll be doing a special on Scorsese, on Christopher Nolan, down the road as we go along. Those are, I think the specials I do are pretty obvious what I'll take on. And Tarantino, it's crazy to think that we keep hearing that he's gonna retire after his 10th film. Whatever his 10th film is, unless, did I count wrong? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was not number 10. It was number 9. Has to be. He always said he was going to retire after number 10. We'll see. Some people are like, it's going to be Kill Bill Volume 3. But how does that work? Bill is killed. There's no I don't see how that, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, moving on. Nev Campbell is the latest to join the next Scream movie, so now the gang is officially back together. Everybody's back. You got Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette all in the next Scream. I'm gonna be honest. I liked the fourth Scream. I actually thought there was an interesting take to it. Like I didn't see it coming. Let's put it that way. I wasn't quite. I thought the twist was good in Scream 4. Scream 2 and 3 are whatever, but Scream 4 I actually thought was the next best one after Scream. No joke. So I mean I like that world, that story world and everything. So I'll check out the new Scream when it comes. I don't know that I'll see it in theaters or anything, but definitely that's interesting. And then we have Star Wars news to talk about real quick. We do. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series production start is looking like April of 2021, which means the season, the one and done season that I think it is, it's one and done, just one season of Obi-Wan will be in 2022. That's what they're shooting for anyway. And The Mandalorian season 2 released its first official images. I will put those up. Interesting to have those. They were in entertainment, so I get it, but just drop a trailer. Like, October 30th is not far off. Drop a trailer. We're waiting for that trailer. Come on. But it's cool to see. It looks like they returned to Tatooine. I'm already wondering why they returned to Tatooine. It's awesome. Definitely looking for... That's very soon, people. October 30th, get ready. Din Djarin returns. The Mandalorian and his tribe of 2. Him and Baby Yoda, who's not Baby Yoda, okay? We're going to learn who that is. I wonder if the creators and the writers, they must know that bringing the species of Yoda into this story in such a big way, is it that time? George Lucas is involved all the way through. George Lucas is involved in just about everything Star Wars related, right? He's gonna... If they want to tackle it, they're going to finally tackle it. If they're going to tackle what the hell Yoda's species is, the origins of it, their planet, there's all of it. Like, are they finally going to tackle this? And you bring this species into the show in a big way, you have to know that you have to tackle that at some point. Maybe not. Maybe they find a way to still keep it a huge mystery. We still don't know what species Yoda is and how... It's still very mysterious to us, so I'm curious if they're taking that approach entirely here and plan on revealing more about that species, about, this character we have is clearly important. So, but yeah, first images, season 2. Check them out. Diana Rigg died. Rest in peace. She was legendary actress in a whole bunch of shit throughout her career, but we would know her obviously from Game of Thrones. She played Olenna Tyrell, who had the most savage death of anyone on that show, the way that she went out. Which, you know what, I won't even talk about if people still haven't seen that show, which you should have. I won't bring it up, though, for you. First Dune trailer, okay? This movie looks so cool. I can't wait to see it. Denis Villeneuve is the director. He did Arrival. He did a lot of sci-fi movies. Fuck. He did Arrival. He did, what was his latest one there? Blade Runner 2049. I think he did that. Point is, Dune, they did the first movie that there was an original Dune that David Lynch did that wasn't very good, but they're based on books, and now I'm thinking to myself, why do I always do this? I end up seeing the movies first. Why don't I read the books? But I'm not going to get to the books. Okay, I'm just not. I'll end up seeing the movie first, and then maybe down the road I'll read the books. But it looks cool. The story world is just one of those big, giant franchise worlds that has a lot of potential. We'll probably see more Dune movies. There's a chance. It looks very cool. Go check out that trailer. I wanted to talk quick about this indie film that Idris Elba is doing. It's called Concrete Cowboy. I just want to keep it in mind, because it looks interesting and I might want to check it out. He talked about it recently in an interview, and I guess it's more of a contemporary style, like Western style protagonist, dealing with some conflict in a contemporary world, where there's cars and shit, and he's on a horse. I don't really know. It looks interesting anyway. So, check that out too. FX's Atlanta, season 3 and 4, which have been filmed consecutively back to back, are both delayed due to the pandemic. So there's that, because they had to halt some production. Guess they didn't finish filming, and they want to continue to keep that format or whatever, that strategy here, and film both season 3 and 4 together. I wonder if that means they'll release more early. Like, we won't have to wait long for season 4, right? Season 2 was forever ago now, right? Wasn't that 2018? Anyway, that's some TV news. The biggest TV news I heard this week was one that I've been wondering when the fuck it was going to happen. And then they have to ruin the news, too, right away. While announcing the news, they announce some other news that ruins the news. Because, fuck, Of course. Look, it's not that it's not a good show. It's just that it's not good enough anymore. They still have the fan base, so I guess if they can pull it off, hats off to them. They announced officially that, yes, finally The Walking Dead is ending. Season 11 will be the final season of The Walking Dead that we all knew when it first started 10 years ago. But at the same time, they announced there's a spin-off series on Daryl and Carol that they're starting right after that. Plus, they have 2 other spin-off series. It just doesn't... It's this whole entire universe now. It doesn't really end with the main show ending. But at the very least, if they can give that story, right? That story, as long as they're all separate in their own way, they're also their own stories. If that story can have its own end in a nice way, then it stands on its own as a decent show in our industry. Something that maybe now that it's finished, more people might consider watching it again because you can binge it all the way through. I personally got all the way to the end of season 8 because I wanted to see what happened with the Rick and Negan thing, and then I know that Rick actually ended up leaving the show at the very first half of the 9th season, and I said to myself, I'm gonna at least finish that so I get the end of Rick's arc. Now that it's only 11 seasons total, I might watch the whole thing, but then again, I think Rick's the only... That was my protagonist. That was the reason to watch, really. He was the guy. Maybe I'll still just watch his last 5 episodes and be done with it. One way or the other, Walking Dead is ending. If it's still too if it drags too much still, I can't do it. Sorry, I can't do it. That was the problem with the show. It started to drag too much. With Walking Dead, it was always just the way they structured seasons and episodes. They didn't handle the multi-perspective the way I thought was most effective. If you look at the way Game of Thrones handled the multi-perspective, that's the way to handle multi-perspective. Don't spend one episode on 2 characters, and then another episode on 2 characters, and then it's like, alright, 2 weeks in a row, where's Rick? Where's our main character? Oh, there he is. Finally, he's back again for the next episode. You have to show everybody. You have to have multiple plots in one episode. You have to really... That's the way that show should have went down. Okay? But, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they started doing that more. Maybe they started doing it less. That's going to be what decides for me if I keep watching it. And Ridley Scott said that a new Alien film is coming. But it may not take place in any sense on the Prometheus world, the Prometheus planet that the last two movies went to, and but it still might be a continuation of that. I love the Alien movies, love them. Can't wait for that. So that's cool. That's where we are. That's news of the week. We're gonna get into our Jim Carrey comedy special, In the Name of the Godfather, the Son of Odin, and the Holy Jedi. And yes, I'm going to be quoting a lot because it's just so quotable. It's just so they're all just so quotable. Yeah. Wait a minute. What was all that 1 in a million talk? I wanted to start with this quote for one particular reason. The idea of 1 in a million is a good concept for what we'll be talking about today. Okay? Because I want to be clear, even though the episode is more specifically centered on Jim Carrey's 8 or so best films, right? This is an episode dedicated to comedy and cinema. Writing comedy is without a doubt one of the hardest things to do. I give credit to any filmmaker pursuing a career in comedy. It's a 1 in a million thing to have your comedy film be considered a great comedy. It really is. It's that hard. Just look at how many comedies a year are shit on by critics. Now, I'll get into that a little more because critics they don't ever seem to understand how to critique comedy. But the point is, comedy is very hard, and I think when we think of the greats, right, we think of the Sandler films, right, the Rogen films, the Pharrell films, and of course, the Jim Carrey films. Those are the ones we think of, right? I also just handpicked those 4 because recently I saw a meme that said if you had to pick one and lose the other 3, who would you pick? And I picked, no, it wasn't. It was, you have to pick one to be gone forever. And it's a tough question. You have to pick one to be gone. You have the other 3, but you pick one that's gone forever. And it was hard for me to pick. It's those 4 are the top 4 guys. And most people will probably say Rogen or Pharrell because they don't want to get rid of Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler. I think I picked Pharrell because I do love Seth Rogen's films. I don't know. Let's see how hard of a question it is. But anyway, those 4 that made me think, those are the top 4 guys. That's who I'll bring up here. You know, when you think of great comedies, those are the guys. They're runs that they had. It's very rare and hard to have those runs. And the only other people besides them, who else would you think of, really? Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson, but are those guys extensions of Will Ferrell? You know what I mean? Jonah Hill, but is that an extension of Seth Rogen? So really, those guys, they're the kings. I think what's most interesting about Jim Carrey's films is that he always seems to be, he seems to play a similar kind of character. I'll get into this. This is what I'm going to touch on when I talk about Jim Carrey films. I'm going to talk about this. He seems to play some archetype, this underdog type character who's strange and quirky, and his personality makes him seem like some hopeless guy, or sometimes he even unlikable, or an outcast. But he always overcomes obstacles to achieve some goal. Plain and simple, the characters of Jim Carrey are 1 in a million. That's what I'm getting at here. They're unlike any other characters. So let's talk about it. And I will take a story. I'm going to take a mainly story perspective here. So my take on Jim Carrey films from a story and script perspective, let's get into it. I want to like put my arm down and like I don't want to like. Can you help me out? No. Yeah. Now, I mentioned how critics don't know how to review comedies, right? Let's talk about this first. What I really mean is that they should stop trying so hard when they sit down and watch a comedy. Here's the thing about comedies. Yes, there are great comedies that are also great movies, right? Structurally, you can tell which ones are great and which ones aren't. A film like 21 Jump Street, right, is obviously a better movie than, say, Dude, Where's My Car? One is more intelligent than the other. But critics get too critical. Trying to find the art in every comedy they review, trying to find the mastery in every comedy they review, it's, at the end of the day, comedies are they're just a different breed, man. Altogether. They don't have to be good movies to be funny. They don't. That's the difference. Comedies they have one job, to make you laugh. If they do that, they should be automatically good, right? There's not bad comedy. Bad comedies to me are the ones that didn't make me laugh. Okay? And that's it. That's the only perspective you should take when you watch a comedy. Critics get all like too particular is the word, like they get with dramas or action films or horror films, which have there's a level of what's the word? I don't want to say art, because comedy's art, mastery. There can be masterful comedies. I don't know what the word is. It's just different. Comedy's different because of what I said. I guess horrors and comedies have the most in common in that regard. As long as they scare you, horror films, and as long as comedies make you laugh, then they should pass the test, if you will. Don't get so particular with those films. Yeah, they're just a different breed, man. I'll give you an example too. There's a dumbness that is acceptable, right? I recently watched an old kids comedy that my friends they were like, you haven't seen that, you got to watch this, right? It's called The Master of Disguise. It's an old kids movie. The film is so, believe me, it is so stupid. So stupid. One of the dumbest movies I've ever seen. But I laughed so hard at so many scenes that at the end of the day, it's a good comedy because I laughed so much. That's the point. I mean, I think the film got a 1% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, this is what I mean. So now, here's how I handle the whole Rotten Tomatoes thing with comedies. I think anyone actually going by Rotten Tomatoes in general when it comes to any movie, just go watch the movie and have your own opinion on it. Don't go by fucking Rotten Tomatoes. But I think I've said it before on the show. What I use Rotten Tomatoes for is if the critics said it wasn't really that good, then okay, maybe I wait until it comes out later and don't go to the theater, because theaters are expensive. Movie tickets are expensive. That's what I use it for. The great movies you want to see in a movie theater. I have to see Tenet in a movie theater. I swear to God, if I don't see Tenet in a movie theater, it's just going to be a big gap in my life. That's the one movie because of the pandemic, I didn't get to see it in a fucking theater, and it should have been seen in a theater. You know what I mean? Like that. Here's how I handle Rotten Tomatoes for comedies. I split the difference, right? If the film got a 50%, it's probably like getting a 90% for a drama. If it got a 1% like The Master of Disguise did, it's more like a 40% for a drama. So it's dumb or not very intelligent or not very good, but maybe you'll enjoy parts. That's how to think of it, right? But I think the category of best bad movies has quite a lot more comedies in it than it does dramas. There's not as many bad good movies in dramas or action films or horror films as there are good bad movies in comedies. And that's what, this is comedies. It stands on its own because of this. Um, so where do our Jim Carrey classics fall in terms of how well written and structured they are? I'll say right off the bat, they're some of the best comedies. With that being said, a few of them are dumb too. Um, let's talk about the writing a little bit. So the catalog of Carrey that I'll be brushing on includes Ace Ventura, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber. I'll even brush on the Cable Guy a little bit, not really that much. Liar Liar, Me, Myself, and Irene, Bruce Almighty, and Yes Man, which in my opinion was the last great Jim Carrey comedy. After that, I don't know what the fuck really he has to do. He has to find those obscure stories again, obscure characters in obscure situations, and that's Jim Carrey, man. He needs to do more movies like that. The Dumb and Dumber sequel was just a nice little movie for fans of the original to have, but the movie itself wasn't as really that funny. It wasn't that good, so I'm not even going to talk about that one. As much as I'd like to add that to the mix, it's not really worth touching on. I won't touch on anything after Yes Man. The actual writing of a comedy script is not different from any other movie. You want a clear beginning, middle, and end, right? A motive for your main character, conflict in the way of achieving that goal, and overcoming the conflict in the end, or not overcoming it, you know. What's hard about comedy stories is the overall landing of jokes, and jokes should be natural, not forced in anything, even not comedy. I think the way the MCU handles comedy is very spot on, brilliant. The way you should handle it, that's natural. They hit the natural comedic beats every time. They don't force. That's just how you. That's how. It's hard. It's a lot of factors. It's the writing, yes, but it doesn't come to life until the performer takes the material and it's a little bit you rely on the performer a lot more, I think, sometimes in comedies. Not that you don't rely on the performers in any other kind of genre, but it's just it's do or die, like hit or miss with the way that the actor's going to take the material and run with it in comedies. A joke is it's just like any other beat in a movie. You have to hit a certain point in a scene, right? Just like with anything else, you want to build the scene properly and get to the punchline. The punchline in dramas and horror films it's the scare, it's the jumping moment, or in dramas it's the emotional moment, like where you're like, holy shit, like you have to hit those beats very particularly, and that's in comedies it's the joke. You have to build to that punchline, and then the punchline has to stick the landing. It's very difficult. What makes it so hard in comedies is that you have to write something that's funny, right? You have to write something that remains funny too as the script goes through multiple drafts. You want the funny moments to still hit their mark when it's shown in a theater. It's also hard when you might think something is funny that others don't think is funny. Finding a nice balance is key. So knowing when something is universally funny compared to just your own personal sense of humor helps when you're writing. Still, in the end, if you ask any great comedy writer, he'll tell you to still write your movie, right? Write what you would watch, what makes you laugh, and ultimately what expresses most your unique voice. The fact that it's not so much what you write as what your actors are going to do with the material, that's going to determine great comedies in the end. And Jim Carrey, he's the best at this. I don't have to, maybe I do have to tell you, he improvises a lot. He takes something that someone wrote and he just goes off in some weird he goes off to some planet and just, he takes it and does what he does with it. And a great comedy actor will also probably improvise a lot. In general, most comedy actors should. I think Jim Carrey is the king of this. Him and like Will Ferrell, those guys, they're the king. of taking material and doing something unique with it. Um, yeah. So let's start with Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Was his first big. I think that was his first hit, right? There's a clear and solid story that doesn't get sloppy. It's why it's considered a great comedy. Ace is set up at the very start of the film what he's like, what he does, and what he cares about. His weirdness, his strangeness is all set up right off the fucking bat. He's breaking a fucking package that says "handle with care" on it. Like it's just quirkiness right off the bat. Um, the inciting action is the kidnapping of Snowflake, and from there the structure is straightforward. Um, with a comedy, you have to have all the quirkiness that's required. So, like, the inciting action of the film is a strange and weird thing right away. The main conflict, the kidnapping of a dolphin, is just immediately, it's comedy gold. It's weird. It's a weird thing. It allows for comedy right away. Ace being strange and offbeat makes the necessary comedic beats just fall into place. So, what I will do with this analysis is I will touch on what I think what I'm going to call the Carrey archetype. I'm going to call it the Carrey archetype, the Jim Carrey archetype. This character or caricature that is recurring throughout his films. This weird, this sort of similar character he plays throughout the films. So touching on that trend here, it's very present right off the bat. Ace is an underdog character. He's odd and obscure, and people count him out upon meeting him right away because of how different he is, right? The cops mostly, who consider him a laughingstock, but even Melissa, too, played by Courtney Cox. When she initially meets Ace, she's completely like, who the fuck is this guy? What are we doing here? Get rid of this goofball, right? Counts him out right away. This is a common Carrey character, right? He overcomes those doubts by never acknowledging them in the first place. He just does his thing, and it leads to a victory in the end, right? In each film, I think there's a key Carrey moment, too, that best expresses what I'm talking about. So I'll try to touch on that in each film. So where our main character challenges the doubts of others in some way, is it in this movie, it should also probably be one of the funniest moments in each film. That moment that best expresses the Carrey archetype, right? In this movie, it's when he proves that Roger Podacter didn't commit suicide, and he does it in front of everyone. So that's the key Carrey moment in this movie, right? Roger Podacter didn't commit suicide. He was murdered, right? Hilarious scene, hilarious moment. That is easily the moment. He proves everybody wrong. It's hilarious. He totally changes Melissa's perspective on him. And the fucking door thing. Only this. Fucking love that fucking scene. Wow, I really didn't talk about Ace Ventura that much, did I? That's whatever. I'll quote it more. I'll tell you that. I will quote it more. Here's something interesting, too. I think he did all three of those. Yeah, so Ace Ventura was followed by The Mask, which I guess, so that's a step down from Ace Ventura, but to many it's also maybe one of his funniest. Maybe, you know what it is? It's probably one of his most quotable because of how weird the character is. The lines after lines after lines when he's wearing that mask. It's one of his most quotable movies. There's a lot there. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know which one. I guess I don't know which one you would say is better or worse. I don't know if I'll go that far as to say which one's. Yeah, I mean, The Mask is not as good as. It's very quotable though. Very. Are you on the list? No. But my friends are. Perhaps you know them. Their names are Franklin, Grant, and Jackson. Right? the Stanley Ipkiss character is one of my favorites because, maybe just for me, but there's a superhero type feel of the film. I relate to him, too. He's a hopeless romantic who gets the girl in the end. Structurally, that movie works, too. Him finding the mask is the inciting action. The movie sort of takes off from there. It doesn't stop moving. Doesn't get boring. In that movie, however, there's an interesting element to the Carrey archetype that's not like the rest of the films. As funny as he is on his own, the character of Stanley is in the film is actually not that funny. He's not at his funniest until he puts the mask on, right? So if it were a drama, the better writing way to do it would to have him somehow beat the bad guy without the mask in the end. But if they did that, the comedy might suffer. So they had to give him one more moment at the end where he puts the mask on, does his funny shit, wins the day, right? Look at that. It's exactly 2 seconds before I honk your nose and pull your underwear over your head. Since it's a comedy, we need that last mask moment, right? The film fixes this by making sure to still give us that moment when it really counts. Considering this is some kind of little love story at the heart of it, there's a love story in this one a little bit, right? They make that be where there's the decision. There's a decision by him, a revelation, a decision, and a moment where the Carrey archetype wins the day without the mask, and it's in terms of the love story, right? He decides to chuck the mask away at the end. Gets the girl loves him for who he is, not who he is when he wears the mask, right? It signifies his not needing the mask, and him being himself is what wins the day. It makes for a good ending. And, I mean, fucking Cameron Diaz also manages to be the most beautiful woman possible when she plays Tina in this movie. My God. And we want a woman like that to have some class, you know what I mean? We want her to like Stanley for Stanley and not for Stanley when he's wearing the mask, right? It actually manages to still be one of his most quotable films. I mean, I can go all day quoting this movie. All day. But like I said, each film has a key Carrey moment. I want to touch on it. So when the underdog overcomes the obstacle in his own way, in this one it was tough to pick out. But perhaps it's when he is punching the hell out of Dorian, which is a hilarious moment, and he's not wearing the mask. He's brave. He goes for it without the mask. He just decides to run into that fucking event and try and save Tina, and it's a brave moment without the mask. It's him overcoming obstacles on his own as Stanley. So I think him beating the hell out of Dorian in that scene, I'm winning, right? And then I think that's probably the key Carrey moment. Can't get 1 week smooth anymore, can I? Someone's got to call me when I tell them not to call me, man. They know the rules, unless it was a telemarketer. I don't know. I'm not checking. Had to stop for a second. Dogs are so... she cracks me up, too. Dogs are so stupid with that shit. I get up for 2 seconds, and she puts her head right where my butt was. And then she doesn't move when I come back. She does this at night, too, when we sleep. Like, I get up to brush my teeth, I come back, she's in my spot. You crack me up. You really do. You want me to sit on you? Like, what are you doing? All right, sorry about that. I had to stop for a second. We're back. Yeah, so that moment when he's punching the hell out of Dorian, that's the key Carrey moment, you know? I gotta start recording at night. Saturday nights. Yeah, so he's doing something he wouldn't normally do, too, without the mask, and he's being a hero. It's very funny. The whole thing. Did you miss me? I guess not. Hilarious movie. But so anyway, Ace Ventura and The Mask were his first 2 hits, but they build to the film that is perhaps his most famous, and that's Dumb and Dumber. I think it's also impressive to point out that he did 3 films in 1 year. So all those first 3 films, Ace Ventura, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, they all came out in 1994. Very, very cool, very impressive stuff. And he capped off 94 with his best film of all time. Debatable, but yeah. even though my favorite is Liar Liar, this is probably considered his best comedy. I don't know. I suppose that's because it's the funniest, or maybe it's the one people remember the most. Also, one of his most quotable films. Um, Granted, if you've seen it as much as I have, it's not as funny anymore. But I mean, I still laugh, definitely. Um, and if you're seeing it for the first time, you're gonna crack up. Uh, it also helps that he has Jeff Daniels matching him perfectly as the other male lead, going blow for blow with comedic beats and lines that makes it a great comedy all around. Structurally, Dumb and Dumber makes comedic use of the idea of two protagonists going on a journey. So, in terms of writing, there's an actual journey here that makes the structure more straightforward. They have the inciting incident of the film, which is very clever because it's the moment Mary leaves the briefcase behind, or in other words, leaves it right where she was supposed to leave it. The whole movie hinges on one dumb decision to grab that briefcase and then bring it all the way back to her, thinking he's helping her, when actually leaving it there in the first place would have been way more of a help. It's a very clever, inciting action to a movie that embodies the idea of dumb people doing dumb things, right? Their whole journey is an unnecessary journey in the first place. Everything Lloyd and Harry comes across, they seem to fuck things up with their stupidity. And so every major plot point takes on this approach. Other examples might be the reversal of the film, which is when it seems like their journey is over, a journey they have no business being on in the first place. The car breaks down, right, at the reversal of the film. It seems like they're done, their journey's done, they split up. This moment, again, cleverly plays with the idea of stupidity, plays with the stupidity of the main characters. Harry is so upset with Lloyd for going in the wrong direction. To fix this, instead of simply getting gas for the van, which would have made way more sense to do that, he trades it in for a crotch rocket little bike or moped or whatever it's called. Harry, being dumb as well, reaffirms their journey by loving the trade-in move by Lloyd. It makes no sense. Just when I think you couldn't possibly get any dumber, you pull a stupid stunt like this and totally redeem yourself. Aha! So stupid. So stupid. Suddenly the trip's back on. The film does not have poor structure. Most importantly, it hits every right comedic beat it's supposed to hit. I just want to mention something quick about the film, too. I brought it up with a friend recently. The film is called Dumb and Dumber, right? There is a subtle little moment that tells you just who exactly is who. I wonder if other people pick up on this. In keeping with the main idea. So, there's a moment that tells you who is dumb and who is dumber. And it's when Harry is dumb and Lloyd is dumber, and there's a little moment that signifies it, and it's when they're reading the newspaper together. Lloyd can't even pronounce the word "the," while Harry can read the whole thing. It's just a little tiny little thing that tells you who's a little bit smarter, which I thought was interesting. And I thought I should point out. And even in this film, there's the idea of like hopeless romantics at play. So Lloyd is tired of having nobody, right? He travels across the country for a girl we all know he can't have. I suppose the moment in this film when he's truly being heroic without it being by accident could be considered the key Carrey moment. It's because while they fuck things up a lot with their stupidity many times, they also accidentally do some good things. But there's a moment where it's not by accident, he's just being a good guy and heroic or whatever. It's in the climax of the film. It's when they're arguing about who should get shot first. Mary and I went skiing. We made a snowman. She touched my leg. They're arguing about having it be themselves who are shot. Like they're like, kill me, kill me, no, kill me, right? They're just being good guys, being heroic. Like it's probably the key Carrey moment for Lloyd. Um, to add to this, it's also a very funny moment that that after Harry says all that, Lloyd can't take it. All right, kill him, right? Only together do they help beat the bad guys, and in the end, do the right thing. Through all the dumb shit they're doing all the time, their intentions are noble. Therefore, we always root for them, laughing the whole way through, right? Let that siren go by. Yeah, so this film was followed up by a couple of whatever films, including the sequel to Ace Ventura, which is funny. I'm not going to talk about it, but it was funny. Not as good as the first, but talk briefly about The Cable Guy, which I just wanted to talk about because it managed to be both a comedy and like a drama. I don't know if it's drama, but thriller maybe because of how weird it gets. It also sort of kicked off another side to Jim Carrey that would consume the other half of his career. So when he wasn't doing comedies, he did a lot of obscure, strange, like weird films. The Cable Guy being probably one of the first ones. In The Cable Guy, he's only funny when he's excited about something. Otherwise, he's a creep, and we see throughout the film that he's also a psycho. The funniest moments are when they're... I think the funniest moments probably when they're fighting each other in the ring at like the medieval fucking restaurant thing, and he's fucking just just like Kirk and Spock, friends forced to do battle. Like he's just like reenacting Star Trek. That scene was hilarious. But in this movie, you really want him to be stopped. He's not the main character. He's the antagonist for Broderick's character. But by the end, you also feel bad for him, I think. Again, the idea of an underdog or nobody still applies. The character of Chip is an outcast, and it's only because we feel sorry for him at times that we don't completely reject him. In a strange way, the point of the story is to have our hero of the film, Steven, learn that he does, in fact, have a lot of problems and he needs to work through them. He does need to grow up, and all the shit Chip puts him through actually makes him realize this. So there's two sides to this story here. Structurally, it's basic, the inciting action being the installation of the cable that brings Chip into Steven's life. Now, if Chip is an outcast who we'd want to see overcome his problems, we'd be waiting all the way until the end when he's saved by Steven and finally lets go, right? It applies less in this film because he's not the main character, so finding the key Carrey moment, is a little different. I suppose the key moment for the Chip character is when he's at the family function and they're playing categories. It's also the reversal of the film because it's when he turns everyone against Steven, and there's like a natural unraveling that takes place after that. It's also one of the funniest moments of the film, the Carrey archetype shining through in a scene that gives us a hint of what Chip, or whatever his fucking name is, because that's not actually his name, could be like if he were mentally stable. He would probably be a funny guy, a normal fun guy or whatever. The category is vagina. The Cable Guy was followed up with my favorite Jim Carrey film of all time. So we're going to get into that one next. Liar, liar. Stop breaking the law, asshole. Is definitely my favorite Jim Carrey comedy. The Carrey archetype is very clear because in this one he takes the form of a bad father, or in other words, a good father who lets his own selfish desires to have a legendary career destroy everything else in his life that actually matters. So aside from being hilarious, it's also heartfelt, right? In this film, it's interesting because he seems like a guy who's already on top, so it's like almost like it's different from his other characters. You know, he's not an underdog, but he's like he seems like a clear and obvious winner, right? But that's what makes this writing so good. The illusion is that he's a winner because he's winning in his career, but he's failing at what he's actually supposed to be winning at, and that's being a father, right? So in a way, he is an underdog still. We want him to do the right thing. He's so in a way he's still the underdog, but you know, because we see right off the bat that he is a good father when he shows up, as they put it in the movie. He's just not realizing what's important, so we root for him to fucking realize it that throughout the film. The comedy naturally embodies the film once we have events set in motion. Another perfectly clever idea for the Carrey archetype to run with and play with. Jim Carrey's funniest and best performance in comedy, in my opinion. The simple idea of someone who can't lie, especially someone who lies all the time, all of a sudden he can't lie. Brilliant fucking idea for a comedy. Perfect for Jim Carrey. He gets creative and he improvises probably most in this film. It's perfect. If you watch the bloopers at the end too, you can see he improvises so much, dude. Watch the bloopers at the end of that movie. They're hilarious. Structurally, the inciting action is a little more subtle. It's the first time we see a good father, right? Pick career over son. That's probably the inciting action. When we see the relationship between them, it's set up for us, and then we see that he picks the career over his son, and we're like, dude, no, man, come on. From there, we get a true start to the movie at the end of Act 1 that sets everything else in motion. It's Max's wish, right? The film manages to be hilarious and heartfelt all at once, with great character growth and realizations that Fletcher is supposed to have as the story progresses. We see that he clearly also lost a marriage that he sidelined for work as well, and we see that it bothers him. We can see that he knows he fucked up there, you know. Jerry? Enjoy my wife. Huh? This is the film where Jim Carrey is at his best when it comes to taking the material the writers have written and naturally hitting the comedic beats with his own style, his own flair. With an idea as fun as this one too, setting up and paying off moments is key. It's also why it's one of the more expositional beginnings to his movies. They set up what he's like with people, with family, and at work. And then once he can't lie anymore, all those same scenarios are played through again. And Carrey takes the comedy all the way. He takes it and runs with it, man. The best example in the film is the way he lies to everyone as he walks through the office in the beginning. And when we return to this scene later, it's hilarious. Whatever takes the attention off your head. Right? Your cholesterol. Fatty. Damn man walking. Hey, you're not important enough to remember. What'll it be, Mr. Reed? A pockmark, eventually. That is probably the best example of how to set up something and then pay it off in comedy. The true point of the idea of the film is to make Fletcher himself realize what an asshole he is. By the back end of the film, he's trying to be better and can't even do it. His instinctual responses just kick in. He's trying to say and do the right thing, and the curse he's under keeps doing the natural Fletcher thing, right? The burglar sued my friend. He sued my friend for $5,000. Now tell me, is that justice? No! I got him 10. He literally finds himself enslaved by his own selfish and prickish state. That when he finally lets what's really true come to light, his realization moment, you know, it's freeing. It really is. It's freeing. The whole thing at the end, he realizes he loves his son more than anything and that he's been missing out on what's most important, what's been right in front of him this whole time. That's the turning point of the film. When Max makes him feel bad by telling him that he's made him feel bad, that's the turning point. His ability to only tell the truth makes him admit to others and to himself, finally, that he really wants to see Max today, right? that he really wants to be with his son. The truth wins. It's funny too, because the truth wins him the case and then opens his eyes to the truth of the business he's in. It's very good. It's good, great writing. I suppose that moment in the courtroom is the key Carrey moment, because it's equal parts overcoming an obstacle, having a realization, and it's hilarious. So he's the underdog all of a sudden, no chance of winning the case, right? And the truth, all of a sudden he finds the truth, it wins, and then it's followed up by the realization that he's been doing things wrong this whole time. So that whole moment at the end is the key Carrey moment. It says here that you weigh 110 pounds. Yeah, in your bra, right? She's entitled to $11.2 million. Jordan fades back, swoosh, and that's the game. Nothing further, Your Honor, right? Maybe you can tell that to the children when they're adopted by the Manson family. I hold myself in contempt. I'm Jose Canseco. That is the key Carrey moment. I could go on all day talking about Liar Liar. I could go on all day quoting Liar Liar. But let's continue. Me, Myself, and Irene is another one just too funny to not talk about. It's also another one that kind of mixes genres a little bit. It's not really a drama in the way Liar Liar can be, but it's got some real thought-provoking moments too. It's also purposefully expositional, which is the right move, taking the right amount of time to build to the turning point for Charlie. The moment when Hank comes to life, right? We have to really spend time seeing and feeling Charlie's struggles, the way people push him around or walk all over him. We have to feel that, right? A breaking point is coming. We have to feel that it's coming. And then when it comes, once again, let Carrey run away with the natural comedy to hit all the right beats. So the Carrey archetype is once again clear, as the character of Charlie is an underdog that nobody takes seriously or even respects, for that matter. The movie plays with an idea that we all usually don't think about until it's blowing up in our faces, right? What happens when you push a nice guy too far? Sometimes he has the tendency to snap. Again, it's another one of those ideas that Jim Carrey can run off in many directions with and play around with. One of those obscure ideas that's perfect for him. Split personality has a lot of room to work with. There are natural comedic beats that Carrey can hit. This was also the Farley brothers again, second time working with him. They did Dumb and Dumber with him. It has that feel. It kind of has that feel to it a little bit. That style. They have a style that's Dumb and Dumber and Me, Myself, and Irene. They do feel similar. A goofy take on an obscure idea. I'm also always amazed at Carrey's ability to make a scene that much funnier with facial expressions, which he does a lot in this movie. That scene when he's got Cottonmouth in the police department, Jesus, would fucking just, oh my god, so funny, dude. Every time he changes into Hank, again, facial expressions. Every time he changes into Hank, like there's the facial expressions the fucking weird shit that he does. This one also does a good job of setting up and paying off, just like in Liar Liar we talked about it. It helps the comedy stick the landing better. We see how Charlie goes through his normal day, right? Person after person takes advantage of him, treats him disrespectfully, so that when he finally turns into Hank, we see it all over. We see everything all over again, and how it's and how Hank handles every person that just shit all over Charlie. Here you go, Dick. I parked it for you. By the way, you got a headlight out, right? And the structure of that very sequence is perfect. The moment you start with is the moment you end with. He takes a shit on the neighbor's lawn. He comes out at the very beginning of that sequence, and the guy's got his dog shitting on his lawn. The sequence ends with Charlie shitting on that guy's lawn. It's perfect. And the name's Hank, fucker. Right? The name's Hank, fuckface. Yeah, just hilarious. Hilarious beats. Um, the movie is also a fun little journey type film again. So, like Dumb and Dumber, again, you have this journey for Charlie finding love again. That's really what the story's about. Uh, so, structurally, it plays out smoothly, even though we get a sort of true start to the movie a little late. Him needing to transport Irene happens a little late, but it's fine. This is because of the necessary setting up that we need to happen. Like I've said, it has to be expositional. The point of the movie is perfect for Carrey, and perfect for that Carrey archetype that we see a common trend, with in his films. He has to overcome Hank. That's the point. Charlie has to finally take control of his life without Hank's help, and that's what we build to. That's why we get our key Carrey moment when it's Charlie and Hank fighting each other at the end. Him literally fighting himself, which is funny. It's a funny scene. To add to the humor, Charlie, being Charlie, thinks he can talk Dickie into putting his gun down, and then he gets his finger blown off. Altogether, the entire Charlie-Hank dynamic is a metaphor for Charlie's own inner turmoil, the fact that he doesn't believe he can handle situations or deal with people or find love. Hank brings out those sides of him. I suppose every time we were watching Hank instead of Charlie, we were seeing, in fact, all of Charlie, right? We were seeing the other half of Charlie. By seeing the part of him that we never would otherwise see. In the end, Charlie realizes this too, that he is in control of his life and can do all the things he originally thought he couldn't. The fact that Irene falls in love with him, the Charlie part of him and not the Hank part of him, is as expressive as anything else of the Carrey archetype's journey. The obscure ideas continued for Jim Carrey after Me, Myself, and Irene with perhaps the most obscure idea yet, right? And that's Bruce Almighty. Our Carrey character is once again an underdog who is counted out at work and who because of it is losing faith in God. This one has similarities to Liar Liar because once again he has to realize what's most important is right in front of him the whole time. This had to be the most obscure idea, right? I don't know. It's debatable. That's a good conversation to have. What's the most obscure Jim Carrey situation? What's the most obscure idea in his movies? But him having the powers of God is a pretty obscure one. And perfect for the comedic powers of Jim Carrey. Now, Bruce, thou shalt not tempt the Lord. Hey, man, if you can't do it. By the way, you suck. What made it even better was that Morgan Freeman played the perfect God. Structured just right, with just the right pacing. As again, you have to set up all the things in Bruce's life that make him so miserable, setting up all the things that he thinks he wants out of life and not appreciating what he already has. Something we're supposed to see and be aware of because then he uses his powers selfishly and slowly destroys all those things that actually matter, right? So the most important thing, obviously, is Grace, his relationship with Grace. Using his powers, he may be able to fix his status and change from being an underdog, but what he becomes is an asshole, and that's not better than an underdog. This movie is mixing genres because it brings drama into it in like a more subtle and graceful way. The character of Bruce has a well-crafted arc as he goes through change and has to come to a realization about life and purpose. It probably isn't as funny as some of the other films, the more I think about it, right? But it has its moments, and it definitely has the perfect key Carrey moment. It's tough to figure what the moment is because the moment, as I've said, is supposed to express most. The key Carrey moment is supposed to express the character being himself and proving people wrong while also being funny. So when I think about it, it can't be a moment when he's using his powers because he only ever used them in the beginning to do selfish things. But, I mean, those were also the funniest moments. But, obviously the Evan moment, right, stands out to everybody when he makes Evan go off on camera and gets him fired. But that's not the moment. That is the key Carrey moment. I think I can only really think of one moment that would be acceptable for the Key Carey moment. Because it connects to him being who he truly is underneath, because he's a good guy underneath, right? So right after he gets fired, he selflessly helps a homeless guy from getting beat up. And then he himself gets beat up, right? Later, he comes back for one of the funniest moments in the film. And even though it's not about the homeless guy anymore, it's about like payback. It's selfish still. It connects most to who he really is. That moment of helping the homeless guy connects to that. So that's why this is the Key Carey moment. And it's also hilarious. Not to mention those guys probably deserved it. They probably needed to be put in their place. Definitely. I mean, the way they were put in their place was definitely excessive, but B-E-A beautiful. Yo, brethren, what up with thee? Blessings on your alley. The day a monkey comes out of my butt, I'll give you a sorry. How about that? Well, how funny. That's very funny because that day is today. The character of Bruce really becoming Bruce is when he obviously goes through changes over time throughout the film and eventually uses his powers for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons. Finally, we've come to the last film I'm going to talk about. The one that, in my opinion, was the last great Carrey comedy, and that's 2008's Yes Man, which co-starred the great and funny Zooey Deschanel, who is perfect for finishing off our great run of female co-stars that Jim Carrey, the savage that he is, had the chance to work opposite all these. I mean, let's run through his fucking lineup here. Courtney Cox, Cameron Diaz, Renee Zellweger, Jennifer Aniston, Zooey Deschanel. I mean, if this was his dating history and not his co-stars, we'd be like, wow, I wish I had his. They're all great fucking actresses and very pretty girls and all that. Not that Jim Carrey didn't date Smokes in real life, because he did. Yes Man is also the last great obscure idea for Jim Carrey to have fun with, right? The idea of only being able to say yes. That's a great fucking idea for a comedy. It's wacky in style and perfect for Jim Carrey. He embodies it. Maybe you need to start being the right guy. See, that's your problem. The wrong attitude right out of the gate. Yeah. I think this is a very relatable Carrey character. Very relatable final film to talk about, because the character of Carl embodies something we've all probably dealt with at some point, right? Feeling like life isn't all that it should be, feeling insignificant or unimpressed with things. Carl's arc is one of self-discovery, living it up, living life to the fullest. For me, I can relate to, because sometimes, I feel like I could be doing more or not doing enough. So, it's fun when the film takes off and it makes you relate and whatever. I don't know. He just starts doing things that are funny with the obscure idea that we have here. The Carrey archetype is clear in this one. Here's a guy who thinks there's nothing worth living for. Life is boring, life is pointless, whatever. He's not someone worth living with or being with, because he's just boring or whatever, and just not eventful or not. He doesn't live like there's purpose. It all stems from a heartbreak in his life. Again, that connects to the other Carrey characters, right? He got boring and predictable and lost his wife because of it, so he further embraces that, and it slowly wastes away his life, right? In actuality, he's the opposite of that, which we learn and he learns. He's actually a fun guy, full of life, funny, and he has to realize that, right? He has to realize that maybe he was like that at one point in his life, and then he has to realize it again. Every pretty girl deserves to go to a ball. There's a love story, too, at the center of the movie. Again, not uncommon of Carrey films. It's about having the courage to find love again, even after you've lost it. In many ways, Carl is this big, fluffy, and warm-hearted guy who has become a hopeless romantic, wasting away until he takes a chance on life again. And if he hadn't taken a chance on life, he never would have met Allison. So there's the heart of this story. His way of life before the insight in action, which is the seminar, is probably the insight in action, is even making him disrespectful to others, inconsiderate to people, like Norm, for example. Norm is nothing but nice to him, and he's always just kind of a dick to Norm, you know? Call me Norm. It'd be like my nickname. I could call you Ka. That could be yours. Yeah, Carl's pretty short already. After our necessary setup in the beginning, once the movie gets going, and he's saying yes to everything, he becomes once again who he probably always truly was underneath. The idea is as simple as saying yes or no to life, and we can all relate to that, right? The Carrey archetype, being an obscure character in each film, of course, takes an idea and runs with it to the extreme possible limit. So Carl goes a little crazy with yes, Red Bull. Red Bull. Never had a Red Bull last night, but I never had a Red Bull before, but I had a Red Bull last night and I really like Red Bull. Red Bull. Red Bull! So yeah, he probably goes off the wall with saying yes to everything. But it's all part of a journey for him to find himself again, and in turn find someone again. Someone who appreciates who he is. Let's really give him a show. Yeah. So, for the last great comedy of Jim Carrey, he did give us a show, and I laughed as much as I felt genuinely good watching it. I also want to point out that his co-stars couldn't get any better in this one. So Zoe Deschanel is equally funny at times. Her band and the songs they sing, one of the best and funniest sequences in the movie. Also, Bradley Cooper popping up in a strange and funny little role here. Actually has a major role as Carl's best friend. And even though he's playing one of his more dickish roles, because he is kind of a dick, he's not as funny either. But he's still worth pointing out, because he was right about Carl needing to make a change in his life. And in the end, he never actually gave up on Carl either. So he's a good friend, too. The key Carrey moment in this film, I think, is when he genuinely wants to do something other than just say yes. You know, it involves him surprising people, too, proving them wrong. I think those moments are probably the key moments. So I'm trying to think of a key Carrey moment in this one. So when he surprises people, when he's funny, when he's saying yes, but not because... I think the best example is when he's saving the jumper from committing suicide using his guitar lessons. Here's why. Because not only is that a feel-good moment, it's also funny. The way he sings it is funny. Wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend. Right? It's also... the reason it's the key Carrey moment is because he didn't actually get asked, do you want to save this person? So there wasn't a moment where he had to say yes or no. He just chose to help that person, expressing most who he really is underneath, right? It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. So yeah, that is it, guys. That is our Jim Carrey comedy special for the most part. I think some notable mentions real quick. Films I didn't talk about but are also in there as good Jim Carrey movies. Fun with Dick and Jane, which is one I've only seen parts of, so I don't know it that well. I have to watch that again, you know. And How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I mean, he played the Grinch and was funny playing the Grinch, and that even embodies the Carrey archetype. The Grinch is an underdog character who needs to make a realization in his life and make a change in his life. That has the Carrey components to it too, doesn't it? My overall take on the Jim Carrey comedy classics that we've discussed is that they embody most how to make great comedies, I think. if I'm not back in 5 minutes, just wait longer. He's not only in this category, of course. He's not alone in this category, of course. There are the greats, and then there's everybody else, right? Adam Sandler had his run. Will Ferrell had his run. Seth Rogen is still, I guess, kind of having his run. You were good, kid, real good. But as long as I'm around, you'll always be second best. See, I think Jim Carrey is the king. I do. I think Jim Carrey will probably always be my favorite. But maybe that's just because his style of humor is the most unique. Well, I guess maybe not the most unique. I don't know. So far, no signs of aquatic life, but I'm going to find them. If I have to tear this universe another black hole, I'm going to find them. I've got to, mister! Every one of these great comedians, they all have their own unique styles. I just think Jim Carrey captures best what it means to take comedy and push it to its absolute limit in the best possible ways, right? He's a pedantic, pontificating, pretentious bastard. A belligerent old fart, worthless, steaming pile of cow dung. Figuratively speaking. I'll see you later, dickhead. More than that, however, I've noticed the recurring themes of his films that try to present really relatable messages, and the fact that his characters all embody one singular archetype of a man who has to discover something about himself or has to prove himself in some way. Price check on Vagiclean, aisle 5. We got a customer up here with a fallopian fucking. And Hank, by the way, is the worst. From me, myself, and Irene, he's terrible. He's just a terrible I'm not here to twist your niblets. I'm here to save your life. But if I'm going to do that, I'm going to need a total and complete anonymity. A man who is odd or obscure in every new iteration and has to embrace what it is that makes him different in order to achieve something. This is the Carrey archetype. This is why Jim Carrey is the great Jim Carrey, right? The wine is going right through me. It's a message overall for audiences watching to embrace their true self and not let anyone stop you from pursuing your goals or overcoming your obstacles. His obscurities are what make him. It's why each new character is so funny, more funny than we're used to. The point is, comedies are hard to write, but the true art of comedy is the comic himself, the performer who can take the material you write, which is only kind of funny at the start, and turn it into something hilarious and unexpected. Jim Carrey is the king of this, and I stand by my opinion. Yeah. Ooh, whoa, 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 whoa. Slow down there, cheese tits. Oh. Alrighty then. Alrighty then. I guess that's it. So what should I do? Should I rate them all? Should I go down the line and rate them all and do my ratings for each one real quick? Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, which started it all. I give that an 8.0 out of 10. It was good, right? The Mask, 7.4. Just okay. Debatable, of course, sure, but I'm going with just okay on that one. Dumb and Dumber, 8.7 out of 10. Great. Definitely great. One of his best. Fucking tell me otherwise. If you really hated it, then you just didn't laugh enough. And that's fine. You know, so that's what it comes down to. Everybody's sense of humor is different, too. That's a big thing in comedy, you know? The Cable Guy, not really a comedy, whatever. 7.0. Okay. Because it's just an okay movie anyway. I wish I could think of more quotes in that one that are funny. There's some funny quotes in that one. He makes me laugh still in that one. When he's doing the whole American Girl thing at karaoke, that's fucking hilarious. The way he sings it, you know. Then there's Liar Liar, which is the best, I think. I'm giving that a 9.0 out of 10. Great movie, great comedy, one of his best, and my favorite of his films. So that's I gotta give it that. Me, Myself, and Irene, 8.3. Good. Not great, but good. Funny. Definitely funny. And this is just a fist. But when I start throwing it around, I don't know. I wish I knew the quotes more. Right off the cusp. I mean, I knew all the ones I said right off the cusp, right? Bruce Almighty. 8.5 out of 10. Great. Probably his only other great one. I think because of the story of that movie. That's what it is. You know, when there's a great story there too, when it's a great comedy and not just a dumb comedy, it makes a difference. It does make a difference. And then Yes Man. 8.2 out of 10. Good. Now I want to get on with my day because I got football to watch and I got a fantasy league to try not to lose in, and I got to edit this and upload it for all y'all and everything and be done. So do our movie quote of the week. I am going to do a Jim Carrey quote, yes, but it's going to be a little under the radar and you got to try to figure out which one it is. If I did one too easy, I don't know. Tell me which one this is from. Aren't you due back at the lab to get your bolts tightened? Name that movie. Which one is it from? I'll give you a hint. It's from one of the three in 1994. Okay? As usual, this was great. This was, this was our official second special, and we did it, and we're done, and we're good. And next time, the 50th official episode of Screen Preach will be the Marvel Cinematic Universe, of course. Come back next week. I'm going to talk about the latest on Netflix that I wanted to watch, Project Power, starring Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That will be next week for episode 26. Come back. I'm your host, Ben Morganti. Follow the show at Screen Preach. Follow me personally at the Ben Morganti. Check out my website, abenmorgantistory.com. My latest project is up there, a preview of it anyway. If you want the whole thing, just let me know. I've done that for some people. And I'm working on, I'm in the research phase of my 8th project, a project I've been wanting to work on for a while. I'm so into it. It's going to be fun. In the meantime, you know the deal. You can find this on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Subscribe to BMS Studios. And really want to support the show, become a patron at Patreon. Other than that, that is going to do it. I am going to find it. Have a cinematic week.